Welcome to the show, Chris Graham and Ray Petree. We're going to talk about an interview opportunity that Ray had earlier this week with a guy from the past. And Ray, I remember watching Sam Houston as a young wrestler, so it was great to see kind of catching up with Sam Houston, former Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion. And a guy that as your story noted, I mean, so many people in his life that he has touched, that he had contact with, family members, others that were among the greats in pro wrestling. I'm sure this was a fun interview for you to do to catch up with a guy like this.
Um, Sam has lived an incredible life. He's been wrestling now for over 40 years, but involved with the business his entire life. Obviously, his father, now infamous wrestler Grizzly Smith, his older brother Jake Roberts, his younger sister Rockin' Robin. This is one of wrestling's truest families. And from Mid Atlantic. Well, he started in Florida to Mid Atlantic to WWF and beyond. We talked about a lot of wrestlers, a lot of stories. It's just interesting to hear these veterans of the business talk about the way it used to be and the atmosphere and what it was like traveling, and it was a lot of fun.
Sam Houston, a guy. So one thing that came up in the interview, you really went back into his early sports background, even before wrestling, and had noted that he had really, he seemed like he kind of knew he was going to go into wrestling, obviously, with all of his family background in it. And there was a health issue that caused him to lose 100 pounds. And I bring that up just because one thing I remember about the young Sam Houston that we saw, I first saw him in Atlantic. I missed his Florida days, at least the first time through, was that he was a skinny guy, tall, skinny guy. And so that health issue that I did not know about was a rather serious one. It was not just potential career threatening. It was life threatening, it sounded like.
Yeah, he had tonsillitis, and he went to have his tonsils removed, and the anesthesiologist nicked his windpipe. And so when they went to, give him the gas, it inflated his windpipe.
Hmm.
And he said that he died on the operating table for 2 minutes. He was in the 11th grade. So, I mean, that's, I can't imagine how traumatizing that was for a young man. And he said he was at 225. He was an undefeated amateur wrestler in his freshman year. His sophomore year, he stopped wrestling after um, some things in his personal life and his family happened. He had to leave the school he was at, move, and he was uprooted. And he said he was at 225, was in great shape, and lost 100 pounds. And he knew from when he was in the second grade he wanted to be a professional wrestler, and it derailed the track he was on. And he alluded to it affected his weight going forward. Like you said, it was partially the reason why he was so thin when he began his career, because he was really young. I mean, today actually is Sam's birthday, coincidentally. He just turned 61, but he got into the business when he was 20. And by 85, he's only 22 years old. So not far removed from that happening and from having to put that weight back on. And when you're on the road, you're not exactly lifting weights all the time. So
You're not lifting weights, you're not eating right. I mean, and he did they derailed his path that he thought he would be on. But talk about how he got into the business. The old-fashioned way, just kind of hanging around and being around the business and eventually getting into the ring.
he performed a number of odd jobs, so to speak, for what I presume the tri-state area that turned into Mid South Wrestling. For his father, he worked with his dad. He would set up the ring. He would hold guys' jackets and their belts when they got there. He would play the entrance music. He talked about how he would play Another One Bites the Dust for Junkyard Dog, which is an incredible story. He mentioned in the interview the first time he saw Kamala and how afraid he was when he had to start playing the music and he came out with the mask. Um, But so he knew a lot of wrestlers. And when he decided he wanted to finally, he regained the weight after his, health scare. And he told his dad, I want to start wrestling. And his dad said, I don't want something to happen to you. I almost lost you once. So his dad was calling around territories and saying, well, I'm not going to, don't book him. Don't let him wrestle. And a long time, very, very early in Dusty Rhodes' career, Dusty Rhodes wrestled in the Sportatorium, and Grizzly Smith asked to change the finish, and he put Dusty over. And Dusty was going to retire because he wasn't going anywhere. He was kind of spinning his wheels. And that opportunity set Dusty on the path that eventually led him to becoming the American Dream. And Dusty remembered that favor that Grizzly had done for him and wanted to repay it to Sam. So he said, I'll bring you to Florida and I'll book you. And don't worry about your dad. I'm not going to let him know you're going to be able to wrestle. And his name is Michael Smith. And he's told Dusty, I don't want to use my father's name. I want to make my own path. And so Dusty said, well, from now on, you're Sam Houston from Waco, Texas. And he started traveling with Dusty. And I'm guessing Blackjack Mulligan. He said either Blackjack Mulligan or Lanza. I don't know. I didn't clarify which one, but he was traveling with Dusty around the Florida Peninsula, which is a notoriously difficult travel schedule because you're going from as far north as like Orlando, all the way down to Miami for TV tapings, back up to Tampa Bay, around the peninsula, and that's how he got in the business. He didn't really, he trained a little bit, but it was mostly an on-the-fly education.
Yeah, that's how guys learned back in those days. And that whole tale. I mean, driving wrestlers around, ferrying guys from to between show and show, setting up the ring. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, okay, yeah, in addition to that, you get in the ring, you get in front of you get reps in front of a live audience, on the start of a card, a house show, a few hundred people there. But you're also just soaking up everything you can from the guys that you're in the car with. And, we don't the guys don't necessarily get that anymore because the travel schedules aren't quite as strenuous. Probably good that that's not the case, but you're not getting those learning opportunities. So Florida to Mid-Atlantic. So in a backstory there, Dusty was the booker in Florida, eventually left to go to Mid-Atlantic with Jim Crockett. And so when Dusty relocated up to Charlotte, brought a lot of the guys that he had been booking in Florida up the road with him there. Sam eventually makes the trek up. This is where I pick up as a young teenage fan. I remember the first time I remember Sam Houston was with his feud with Crusher Khrushchev over the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight title. So and he got to wrestle on a Starrcade 85, one of the best pay-per-views of all time. What was that experience like for him?
I mean, imagine you're only in the business. He got in September of '83, so a little over 2 years, and he's already is that it's not the opening match, right? But it's one of the first few matches of that card.
Yeah.
And he talked about how back in the day the heels called the matches, and Sam was from time immemorial an underdog babyface, someone who would have these come from behind victories. Learning from Crusher Khrushchev, Smash for WWF fans, and Demolition. Trying to pull the curtain back, but he learned a lot from the heels that he worked with, and Mid Atlantic was very strong. It had a lot of great heels at that point in the bullpen. Yeah, and he talked about how in the rematch, Crusher Khrushchev, I guess, tore up his knee when he dropped the title to Sam eventually. But yeah,
He also works a feud, and this is where the story kind of brings us to the current day. We'll go ahead and we'll do that part where he worked a lengthy feud with Black Bart, and it's one of these things where I talk on our videos and our podcast, Ray, about how I do go back and watch at least a couple of days a week. I'll go back and watch older shows on YouTube. And I had been watching WCW, the old World Championship Wrestling when it was still NWA Mid Atlantic in Georgia, from the mid '80s. And I did see a Sam Houston Black Bart match not that long ago, maybe a few weeks ago. So those guys worked with each other so much back then. And there's one thing Sam's trying to talk about, and one reason he wanted to talk with you for this story was something regarding Black Bart and his current health.
Yeah, these guys wrestled in Mid Atlantic. They wrestled in Mid South after Sam eventually left Mid Atlantic, and then in the '90s when Crockett brought the NWA to Dallas, they wrestled in Dallas in the Sportatorium in the mid '90s. These guys were, you know, Black Bart's talked about at length that Sam is one of his favorite opponents to work with. They had a lot of bull rope matches. They obviously Sam lost the Mid Atlantic Heavyweight Championship to Black Bart. And while they were friends when they were younger, they're even better friends now. They talk constantly. And Black Bart has stage 4 colon cancer. It is terminal, and he will have to undergo chemotherapy for the remainder of his life. Um, I know maybe a year ago now, John Bradshaw Layfield actually helped Black Bart set up a GoFundMe to help cover the cost because Black Bart's condition, he can't appear anymore. He certainly can't work anymore. So, just to keep up the ongoing costs of this chemotherapy, they have a $10,000 goal. I think they're about $4,000 away from reaching that goal. And Sam Houston, one of the primary reasons we did this interview was because Sam wanted to highlight what's going on with Black Bart and try to raise awareness and maybe have some people donate. These guys spent, a number of years in their lives entertaining fans of the Mid Atlantic territory. And, Sam hopes that people will donate to Black Bart. And to incentivize that, if you donate, in the article, there are some items listed and prices for those items. If you donate and send Sam Houston a proof of your donation, he will send you merchandise, depending on how much you donate. They have a number of cowbells from their bull rope matches that are signed by both men with pictures, and they're kept in a potato sack. And the idea that in wrestling, you hit someone for real, it's a potato. And back then, when they wrestled, Black Bart was known to really hit people. They were not worked punches. So they have a number of these ropes with the cowbells attached, signed by both men in these potato sacks, with 8x10 photos from their matches, for $1,000. If anyone donates $1,000 to Black Bart's GoFundMe and you send proof, Sam has these cowbells. There's 19 of them. They originally was 30, so they've already sold 11 of them. And if either of these men die, I mean, Sam raised the point that the value will skyrocket. So if you're a collector, if you were a fan of Mid Atlantic Wrestling, I think this is something that would be worth going out of your way to get.
For our viewers out there watching this video as we're wrapping up, we'll have also on our YouTube page, we have Ray's interview with Sam that you can listen to, watch in its entirety. And also, we'll have a link. We have a link in the description here to the story that Ray wrote for AugustaFreePress.com. So you can find that. And plus, that'll also help you see it's got links to the GoFundMe. It's got the long list of the items that Sam is making available to those who donate to the GoFundMe for Black Bart. So all helpful there. So go to AugustaFreePress.com, look for the other video on YouTube. That'll also be, if you go to the link on this AugustaFreePress.com website, that story will also have the video embedded there. So it might make it easier for you to do that. So, well, Ray, I want to say congratulations on the interview. Great work on that. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Chris.